Film Club.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Film Club. I'm one of your hosts, Andy Harrison. With me, as always, it's Andy Donaldson.
Now then.
Every week in Film Club, we invite you along to watch a film with us, and this week we are taking a look at This Is England.
This is a British classic. A young lad named Sean going through the early 80s, and it's about him growing up, but him growing up without kind of paternal figure. His father passed away in the recent Falklands War. You've got Thatcher, who's rife at the moment. You've got the working class. You've got anarchy in the UK, led by the punk movement and Sex Pistols. Sean finds these skinheads. He finds solace in these people, in the good-hearted, but equally this film shows the foul-hearted aspects of skinhead in the sense of nationalism that leads to racism. I am so glad we're finally reviewing this, mate, Andy. Honestly, when people asked me before, Shane, your favourite director, I think we nailed it down to Danny Boyle, but a very close second was Shane Meadows.
Last week, we did Kes. One thing that I brought up was that when Ken Loach film comes out, it's a bit of a moment. You know, everyone knows who Ken Loach is. You get excited for a Ken Loach film. I think the same thing was around Shane Meadows for quite a while for us, especially in the north of England. You know, he is a director who's very, very well regarded here. Now, he started picking up a bit of steam with the film prior to this that we'll talk about a little later, Dead Man's Shoes. And then This Is England was one of those films that it just, if you are of a similar age to you and I, and if you have grown up in the north of England, you watched This Is England probably either at some point while you were at school or while you were at college. I remember watching this in a media studies class, mostly because we were looking at sort of Shane Meadows' technique, but more importantly where he'd come from and how he'd managed to use his upbringing to fuel This Is England, because This Is England is semi-autobiographical for him. There's a lot of his own background in this. There's a lot of his own upbringing in this. Some of it's twisted to sort of, you know, fit the themes of the film a bit more. But even down to like Sean, obviously he's meant to be a bit of an analog for Shane Meadows. He's Sean Fields, Shane Meadows. There's sort of a direct parallel there.
How did I not know this? What?
There's this whole thing around like Shane Meadows' dad when he was in school. He wasn't killed in the war, but I think if I remember right, he was a suspect in a murder case. Which I think he was let off for. Like I don't think he was actually found guilty. I think he was just sort of dragged into it. But that's what led to like Shane Meadows bullying while he was at school and made him feel like a bit of an outsider, a bit of a sort of castaway. And the film really, it uses that personal element. It uses sort of Shane Meadows' like real experiences of being a kid and being in these environments and being around these people to fuel a sort of angry political rupture that goes on in somebody's own like little personal subculture. You know, you have these skinheads that are these little personal subcultures that Sean in this film manages to find some sort of solace in, and then in comes this horrible political just rampage that destroys all that.
As I said, this is when Thatcher's coming in, you know, at the Falklands War, she's shutting down coal mines, so there is a sense of anarchy in the UK, and this is all coming about from that. But these subdivisions, you know, you do have this far right cause. You see when they go into the pub, where Combo leads them to a pub, and that guy, he looks like some sort of like MP, or he's kind of higher up, and he's almost like making his little army of nationalists that are kind of pushing their racist agenda, you know, like fighting for what really is British, what's England, and all this. They've all got their cross tattooed on them. So last week really resonated with me and you personally with Kes. Sorry, This Is England is set in the early 80s. That's kind of like the generation between our parents and us. I never really had much with this skinhead movement. I never knew too much about it before watching this film.
The white nationalist stuff is definitely a small movement within the UK. I think the problem that Shane Meadows is trying to discuss here is the way in which it can spread and the way in which that it can sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's almost like a poison. You know, you put a drop into a mixture. You know, this film is about people who are lost souls. They're about people who are looking for some sort of family. Sean in particular, he's looking for somebody who can be a father figure to him.
Yeah. Which is what Woody is.
Yeah, he starts to find that in Woody. But then Woody is somebody who is much more in favour of the idea of free speech. which ironically is then used against him when Combo is introduced. I find that a lot of people from our area they know a Combo. They know somebody who is Combo, not necessarily with the idea of heavy white nationalism. There's a great scene here that just encapsulates it perfectly. When you'll have a group of people around, you're having a good time, and maybe, these aren't people who are very affluent. They are people who are living on benefits. They're scraping by. They're sort of like borrowing and stealing and stuff. But like, they're pretty much good-hearted people. And when they're having one of those sort of like lovely nights, they go to Smell's birthday party, and you have these moments where everyone's just having a nice time, and then Combo turns up, and this is something that I think a lot of people have some sort of relationship with, where they've got that person who turns up, and they ruin the night, they ruin the atmosphere, they don't gel with everybody. Their views are too extreme in some ways. There's something off about them, but then that person goes and finds somebody else who's like them and brings that person into the group. And then they talk long enough and loud enough that they start to influence other people. And that sort of character, the Combo character, although he is fundamentally horrific, he's so wonderfully realized in this film. Like, Shane Meadows clearly knows exactly who Combo is. And Stephen Graham, who just portrays him phenomenally.
Stephen Graham is sensational. He's easily one of my favourite English actors. He's absolutely sublime in pretty much everything he does. One of my favourite roles is him in Boardwalk Empire. He's so passionate in his, even if he plays quite a dark character such as Combo, he's so passionate in his performance, and he lives it to the full. And my God, I've seen this obviously before. I haven't seen it in a while, and I watch it again. I was thinking, despite the fact I don't like the character, I know what he ends up doing. Christ, he can't deny that performance, man. He can't deny that performance.
You've got, I think, Woody with what's his name? Sorry,
Vicky McClure as well, who plays the detective in Line of Duty. Anyone who's watching UK drama series, Line of Duty is phenomenal, by the way. That's
Lol. Plays Lol in this, right? Yeah.
And then obviously, Thomas Turgoose, who is Sean, who is like sublime. He's amazing. He's quick. He's witty.
And he's got there's a level of awkwardness about him as well. He's sometimes there's a confidence, there's an awkwardness. There's sometimes Natalie said something interesting when we were watching this, and it was, she wasn't sure if Thomas Turgoose is either this immensely wonderful child actor, or if he's absolutely horrific. I'm like, I think he's a little bit of both, and I think that's part of the brilliance of it. He's clearly a young actor, very little experience, but he kind of throws himself into some very heavy emotional scenes. But then occasionally, when he's delivering dialogue, it doesn't feel natural. But that totally works for Sean, because Sean is trying to be he's a kid who's trying to be an adult, and he's trying
to fit in.
Yeah, exactly. He is playing a facade.
It's fantastic, and what better scene to portray Sean's character than that end scene where he's gone to the beach. It's almost similar to the 400 Blows one. He's running to the beach, throws the flag into the water, and stares up the camera. I love that scene.
There's a lot of 400 Blows in this. There's a lot of Kez in this.
There's a lot. Well, interestingly, there's a scene when you first see Woody and he goes through the thing. He's like, I'm being bullied and all this. There's a bit of graffiti in the wall, and I really hope Shane Meadows meant this. There's a bit of graffiti in the wall behind Woody that says Kez, K-E-Z. Really cool.
I never noticed that. I did notice the Maggie is a twat. See Margaret Thatcher.
That was hilarious. So we can't go and talk about Shane Meadows without including one of his best aspects, what is his choice of music. And you seldom get a director who really, really knows his collection, his catalogue of music so well. He knew this era. He knows the movement. He got a lot of reggae. He plays a lot of Toots and the Maytals and the Specials, but he also plays a lot of kind of soft folk. There's an artist that he likes to play quite often called Clayhill. This is the film that introduced me to an Italian pianist called Ludovico Einaudi. And he is, oh my God, he is amazing, right? He's amazing. When you want to listen to some really good pianists, kind of classical music, you go to Ludovico Einaudi. It's the emotional parts, the emotional arcs of these characters where the music comes in. And even towards the end, oh my God, towards the end, at the end of the film, after that shot with Sean, there's a song that really resonates with me called Dietro Casa. It's from the album Una Mattina, which is hands down one of my favorite albums in the world. If you haven't listened to it, please listen to it. That's to you as well, Andy. My God, his music is amazing, but it really, really lifts this film. He is a genius when it comes to using music.
He makes that wonderful juxtaposition between the absolute, just the almost horror and destruction of the concrete wasteland that they live in, and this sort of elegantly beautiful music. It's just the two married together. I always remember watching the scene where Combo turns on Milky, and just
It's
starts to absolutely rail on him.
Mm.
And I remember watching that I think it was like first year college at the time. And it was one of those scenes that just sort of shook me awake from the idea of what we'd been watching prior. You know, at that point, I'm 16 years into my life or something. You've been watching blockbusters and you've been watching Disney films and you've been watching sort of whatever the machine has churned out and sort of shown you. And I remember This Is England being one of those films to really grab me and wake me up from that.
This is like real life. This is some of the shit that goes on.
Well, it's like we were talking about last week. This is it's contemporary kitchen sink realism. It's showing you how important the drama of real things can be. And
however horrifying.
This Is England was a big player in teaching me some of that, to the point that actually when I went off to uni, a couple of years later, one of my first projects actually was to recreate a scene, and we actually recreated a scene from This Is England. So I love it. I absolutely love it. This Is England is one of, I think, the most important films that's been made in Britain for the last, 2006, so of the last 14 years. So anyway, there is This Is England. You can let us know in the comments below what you thought of This Is England, or you can hit us up on Twitter, as always. But Andy and I will be back once again next week, because we're going to take a look at just one more Shane Meadows film. We have to take a look at the film that preceded this, with Dead Man's Shoes.
This is one of my all-time, up there, top 3 favourite films ever. I really hope you like it, and have a special listen out for the music.
So until then, get watching.
Cheers.